She watched as her dress was torn apart by a smug TSA agent. But what he didn't know? Her husband controlled the airport. Now it was time for payback. It was just another busy morning in Atlanta. People rushed to get through security and flight announcements filled the air. But for Jessie Doyle, today was different. She wasn't just another passenger. Jessie had the kind of style that made people stop and stare. She wore an elegant, floor-length black dress that hugged her figure. Delicate, expensive, and impossible to ignore. She walked through the terminal with ease, used to the attention. Her husband, Stuart Doyle, was a powerful businessman, the kind of man who owned half the airport. His connections could get anyone into a VIP lounge anywhere in the world. Jessie was used to luxury, but she wasn't one to brag. She didn't have to. She carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who knew her worth. But today, none of that mattered. As Jessie reached the TSA checkpoint, she noticed one of the agents watching her. He had a smirk on his face, the kind that made her uneasy. He was middle-aged, average height, with a uniform that stretched tight across his shoulders. He looked like someone who had been on duty for too long. His eyes lingered on her as she placed her things in the bin, ready for the usual security check. But something felt off. "Step aside, ma'am," he said suddenly, his voice firm and cold. "We need to do a more thorough check. That dress of yours looks expensive. How'd you get it?" Jessie raised an eyebrow. She had gone through airport security countless times. She knew the process. But the way he spoke, the way he was looking at her, it didn't sit right. "You're kidding, right? It's just a dress," she said, keeping her voice calm. But deep down, she had a bad feeling about this. The agent didn't respond. Instead, he started rummaging through her things, her purse, her carry-on, as if he had all the time in the world. Jessie didn't react. She had dealt with worse. Then, without warning, he reached out and grabbed her dress. With one rough yank, he pulled at the fabric. What would you do if you were in Jessie's shoes? Would you stay quiet or take action? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. "Hey, what are you doing?" Jessie gasped as she heard the sharp rip of fabric. The sound echoed through the busy terminal, and her heart dropped. "Oops," the agent said, grinning. "Guess your dress isn't as strong as it looks. Looks like it's not even worth that much, huh?" Jessie froze. The tear wasn't small, it was a full-on rip, running down the side of her dress. The elegant outfit she had carefully chosen was now ruined. Passengers around her turned to look, their whispers spreading like wildfire. "Are you serious?" Jessie said, her voice tight with anger. The agent didn't apologize. He just shrugged. "Hey, sometimes things get rough. Not my fault your dress was fragile." Jessie could feel the weight of the crowd's stares. Some looked at her with pity, others with judgment. She stood tall, but inside her blood was boiling. This wasn't just about the dress anymore. It was about humiliation, about being treated like she was nothing, like a joke. And deep down, she knew. This wasn't just about a security check. She had seen this before, felt it before, the sting of prejudice, the silent whispers that followed her because of her skin color. And the agent? He had the look of someone who saw her as less than. "You're going to pay for that," she said, her voice now ice-cold. "Sure, whatever," he muttered. "File your complaint, sweetheart. It's not like I'm the one who has to pay for a dress." That was it. Jessie felt her blood pressure rise. She wasn't going to just stand there and let this happen. Not this time. As the agent moved on to the next passenger without a second glance, Jessie grabbed her phone. Her hands shook as she dialed Stuart's number. "Stuart, I need you here, now." His voice sharpened instantly. "What's wrong, baby?" "There's a problem, a big one. The TSA agent, he tore my dress, on purpose. And he laughed about it like it was some kind of joke." She could hear the change in Stuart's tone. He didn't take disrespect lightly, especially when it came to her. "Stay right there," he said. "I'm on my way." Jessie took a deep breath, trying to hold back the frustration, the anger, the disbelief. This felt like some kind of nightmare. She had dealt with discrimination before, but this was about more than race. It was about dignity. And that agent? He had no idea who he was messing with. As Jessie stood there staring at the shredded fabric of her dress, a voice spoke behind her. A woman, probably in her 70s, stepped up beside her. She wore a soft cardigan and comfortable shoes, her face full of warmth and kindness. "Baby girl, I saw what happened. You didn't deserve that," she said gently. "You've got every right to be mad. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Jessie blinked in surprise. The woman gave her a small smile, the kind that reminded her of her grandmother. "I've been through it too, sugar. Don't let these fools get to you. If you need a witness, I'm happy to speak up." She squeezed Jessie's hand. "You're not alone in this." For the first time that morning, Jessie felt a flicker of hope. The universe had a way of sending the right people when she needed them most. And as Stuart's voice crackled through the phone again, that flicker turned into a fire. "This isn't over," Jessie whispered, her chin lifting. "Not by a long shot." Jessie paced near the security checkpoint, trying to stay calm. The anger inside her still burned, bubbling like a pot about to boil over. But now she felt steady. Stuart was coming. And this time, she wouldn't let it slide. As she stood there looking around the room, Jessie replayed the agent's words in her head. "It's not my fault your dress was fragile." The nerve of him. What a jerk. She could feel the weight of the stares on her, the silent judgment from strangers who had seen the whole thing happen. But what bothered her most was the way the TSA agent had looked at her, like she was just another target for his tiny bit of power. She had seen that look before, and it always made her blood run cold. But she wasn't about to let him win. Just as she was about to call Stuart again, her phone buzzed. It was him. Jessie answered before the first ring even finished. "Baby, where are you?" Stuart's voice was sharp, filled with concern. "I'm 3 minutes away, and I swear if I don't get to this airport soon, somebody's going to regret it." Jessie let out a breath. She hadn't even realized she was holding it in. "I'm right here at security, baby, just waiting." "Good. Don't move. I'm coming in hot, and I've got something to say to the guy who thinks he can mess with my wife." She could hear the anger in his voice, but she wasn't worried. Stuart could handle it. He wasn't just a businessman. He was a man who had climbed to the top by making sure people respected him. And if they didn't, they learned fast who they were dealing with. A few minutes later, Stuart stormed into the security area, impossible to ignore. His sharp suit and polished shoes clicked against the tile floor. His jaw was tight, his eyes scanning the room. He was the kind of man people looked up to, or feared. When he entered a room, people paid attention. Jessie spotted him right away, and relief washed over her. Stuart didn't waste a second. Without even glancing at her, he marched straight toward the TSA supervisor standing near the security desk. "Hey, you!" he barked, his voice booming through the busy terminal. "I need to talk to you." The supervisor turned around, his face twitching with recognition. He glanced at Jessie, who was still standing there, clearly upset. "Sir, I'm not sure what the issue is." Stuart cut him off with a glare that could freeze fire. "Oh, you know exactly what the issue is. My wife was treated like garbage by one of your agents. So you can either handle this like a professional, or I'll make sure your whole department hears about it." The supervisor's face went pale. Jessie could see the color drain from his cheeks as he realized who Stuart was. He knew Stuart Doyle, the man who owned half the city, a man with more power than most could imagine. "Sir, I don't know what happened here," the supervisor stammered. "I'll look into it right away." Stuart wasn't having it. "Look into it?" "No, we're past that. Your agent ripped my wife's dress in front of everyone and didn't even try to act like it was an accident." "I saw the way he was looking at her. It was on purpose." Jessie's heart pounded, but she stayed calm. She wasn't some helpless victim. She was a woman who knew her worth, and she wasn't going to let anyone disrespect her. The TSA supervisor glanced toward the agent, the one who had torn Jesse's dress. The man stood stiffly near the checkpoint, avoiding Stewart's glare, shifting uncomfortably. Jessie turned to Stewart, her voice steady but filled with quiet anger. This isn't just about the dress. It's about what he did to me. What he's done to every woman who's ever been disrespected by someone like him. I'm not letting him get away with it. Stewart met her gaze, and for a moment his expression softened. He knew what she meant. This wasn't about revenge, it was about dignity. About standing up and saying, "You can't treat me like this." "Damn right," Stewart said. "You want this to go away? We do it my way. We're going to show everyone what happens when you mess with the wrong person." He turned back to the TSA supervisor, his voice lower now, but packed with power. "Listen, I want that agent fired. Today. No questions, no excuses. And I want a public apology from my wife. I don't care if you have to call the media yourself, I'm not messing around." The supervisor opened his mouth, but Stewart wasn't done. "And while you're at it, you should take a good look at your whole department. People like him don't belong in a professional environment. This isn't the 1990s, it's 2025. Jesse watched as the supervisor's hands trembled. But this was exactly what Stewart did best. He didn't wait for justice. He demanded it. And when he spoke, people listened. The agent who had been trying to disappear now found himself at the center of attention. Jesse could feel his eyes on her, but she didn't flinch. If he thought he could intimidate her, he was dead wrong. She'd been through worse. This was nothing, and just like that, the situation exploded. Minutes later, an airport spokesperson arrived, trying to smooth things over, but Stewart didn't back down. Jessie stood by, watching it all unfold, feeling something shift inside her, something strong, something solid. Today wasn't just about her dress. It was about proving that no one could tear her down without consequences. As security led the TSA agent out of the terminal, his head hung low. Jessie met Stewart's gaze, and he gave her a small nod. We did this together. A surge of pride filled her, not just for Stewart, but for herself. She had been hurt, humiliated, but now she was stronger. They both were. And now everyone knew. Respect is earned. As the TSA agent was led away, his face twisted in shame and disbelief, Jessie stood tall. Her anger cooled, but her determination burned stronger than ever. Stewart, calm as ever, watched the chaos unfold. "An apology isn't enough," he said, his voice steady. "I want that man gone, and I want the world to know why." The airport spokesperson, visibly sweating, nodded. "We'll handle it immediately, sir." Jessie stepped forward, her eyes sharp. "You better, and don't think we'll forget. This isn't just about a dress. It's about respect." Stewart squeezed her hand, a silent promise in his grip. "Don't worry, baby. This won't be the last they hear of it." As they walked away, Jessie glanced at him. "You sure know how to make a point," he smirked. "I make every point count." The agent was fired that same day. The press got the story, and Stewart made sure it went public. No one would forget how Jessie was treated, and no one would dare try it again. Jessie walked out of the airport with a quiet smile. She wasn't just the woman in the torn dress anymore. She was someone you didn't mess with. Stewart leaned in, whispering, "I've always got you, baby." And with that, they left, knowing they had sent the message loud and clear. Don't mess with a woman who knows her worth. If you found this story engaging, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more gripping stories like this. Hit the like button and let us know your thoughts in the comments.